Pablo Escobar. At his peak, Escobar made an estimated $420 million a week. Forbes listed him as one of the richest men in the world with a net worth over $30 billion. He lost so much cash to rats and mold that his accountants wrote off $2 billion a year. He once burned $2 million in cash just to keep his daughter warm. Escobar's cartel controlled 80% of the global cocaine market, and he ran smuggling routes with submarines, planes, and even coffins. Violence was part of the deal. He bombed airplanes, took out presidential candidates, and waged war against the Colombian state. And yet, in the slums, he was seen as a saint, building homes, schools, and soccer fields. The government built a prison for him, which he then escaped. Even his imported hippos outlived him. Escobar wasn't just rich, he rewrote what criminal wealth could look like. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. El Chapo made over $14 billion trafficking cocaine, heroin, meth, and fentanyl. The DEA called his Sinaloa cartel the most powerful drug operation in the world. At his peak, he smuggled hundreds of tons of product into the US, using underground tunnels so advanced they had rail systems and lighting. His wealth bought entire cities worth of loyalty. He paid off cops, generals, politicians. One witness claimed he gave a $100 million bribe to a sitting president. He owned private zoos and fleets of luxury cars. Despite being locked up in maximum security prisons, he escaped twice. Once in a laundry cart and once through a mile-long tunnel dug under his cell. After his final arrest, he was extradited to the US and sentenced to life. But his sons are still active. El Chapo wasn't just rich. He built a criminal brand that outlasted him. Griselda Blanco. Griselda pulled in over $80 million a month at her peak. That's nearly $3 million a day. She had closets full of diamonds, mansions in Miami, and once allegedly paid to have a rival gunned down at Disney World. She pioneered coke smuggling into the US during the 1970s and 80s, disguising it in bras, girdles, and baby carriages. Her connections and Miami base helped ignite the infamous cocaine cowboy era. But Blanco wasn't just smart, she was vicious. She reportedly ordered hits for fun and killed lovers who annoyed her. Her bodyguard said she had more kills than most of her male rivals. She also named her son Michael Corleone, after the Godfather. Arrested and deported, she was eventually gunned down while buying groceries. Her wealth and violence were unmatched at the time. She was the queen of coke before Netflix even knew her name. Ismael El Mayo Zambada. El Mayo is the ghost billionaire of the drug world. He never got flashy, but he allegedly made billions as the invisible hand behind the Sinaloa cartel. While El Chapo drew heat, El Mayo stayed in the shadows. Never arrested once in over 40 years, his cartel ran like a multinational company, decentralized, adaptable, and insanely profitable. He oversaw massive shipments of meth, coke, heroin using land, sea, and air routes. His wealth is hard to pin down, but government reports estimate he rivaled El Chapo in earnings. Instead of flaunting it, he used it to buy silence, protection, and political cover. One crazy detail: when his son was captured and extradited, El Mayo didn't retaliate. He stayed calm, silent, and untouched. In a world of flashy narcos and Instagram brags, he built a billion-dollar empire with no arrests or mistakes. He might be the richest criminal you've never seen. Amado Carrillo Fuentes. Amado reportedly made $25 billion by turning cocaine trafficking into an airline business. He bought a fleet of over 30 Boeing 727s and turned the skies into drug highways. At one point, he was said to own more jets than Mexico's national airline. Known as El Señor de los Cielos, Lord of the Skies, he controlled the Juarez cartel in the 90s and pioneered direct deals with Colombian suppliers. His cartel smuggled tons of cocaine into the US at speeds nobody had seen before. He used his wealth to build high-tech safe houses, bribe military officials, and live like a head of state. But fame brought pressure. Hunted by US and Mexican forces, he tried to change his identity with plastic surgery and died on the operating table. The two surgeons were later found dead in concrete barrels. Rafael Caro Quintero. Caro Quintero reportedly made over $500 million before age 35. His cartel ran huge plantations in northern Mexico, producing thousands of tons per year. He built his own runway, had exotic animals, and once dropped $2 million on a wedding. But he didn't just grow weed, he helped build the infrastructure of modern drug trafficking. He co-founded the Guadalajara cartel, made connections with Colombian traffickers, and controlled smuggling routes across the US-Mexico border. But then came the murder of DEA agent Kiki Camarena in 1985, which flipped everything. Caro Quintero fled, was caught, and spent decades in prison, until he was suddenly released in 2013 due to a legal technicality. He vanished into the mountains, evaded capture for years, and was recaptured in 2022. Through it all, his fortune stayed legendary. He helped write the playbook for cartel power, and lived long enough to become a ghost story. Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo. Miguel wasn't just another drug boss. He was the one who organized the drug business in Mexico. Before him, drug trafficking was local and disorganized. He changed that. A former police officer, he used his political connections to unite all the major drug routes in Mexico under one system. He created something called the Plaza model. Every region had a manager who paid him a cut, and he handled the big picture deals with South American suppliers. He ran it like a company, not a gang. At his peak, he was worth over $500 million. He lived in luxury, owned massive homes, and was protected by people in powerful positions. He threw parties with government officials and stayed far from the violence. People called him the Godfather because he moved like a boss, not just with power, but with influence. Everything changed in 1985 when a US drug agent was kidnapped and murdered in Mexico. The US put huge pressure on the Mexican government, and he was arrested in 1989. But before he went down, he split his empire between his top guys. That move created the Tijuana, Juarez, and Sinaloa cartels, the same ones still fighting today. He didn't just get rich, he designed the entire system, and Mexico's drug war is still following his blueprint. The Rodriguez Orejuela brothers. Gilberto and Miguel Rodriguez Orejuela made over $10 billion as the heads of the Cali cartel. But unlike Escobar, they kept things quiet and corporate. They ran their operation like a Fortune 100 company, with departments, pay stubs, and strict internal rules. They even invested in legitimate businesses, including pharmacies, banks, and a pro soccer team. At their height, they controlled 80% of the global cocaine trade and shipped over 200 tons a year. Instead of terror, they used bribes and blackmail, wiretapping law enforcement, journalists, and even politicians. They were so well connected that Gilberto once said, "We don't need violence when we own the government." Eventually, the US cracked down, and both brothers were captured and extradited. But their model changed the game. Less war, more influence. They proved you didn't need explosions to run a drug empire, just strategy, money, and silence.